Hi, guys. We're live today. We've got a great show, or I should say, I have a great show planned for you today. We are going to talk about the two deeps. We're going to talk about media days, what Kirk Ferentz had to say, what some of the players who went along today had to say. And honestly, I was quite impressed with the interviews that the players gave. I thought they handled themselves really well. Okay. As usual, though, I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and share the podcast. If you're online now watching, just hit the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. We're trying to get up to 500 subscriptions by kickoff on August 31st. So we have about 5 weeks to do so. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go with the two deeps. I got them right here. I haven't figured out how to share my screen yet, or I would make this easier for you guys. But here we go. So this year the offense is starting 12 positions, and of course the variations and depending on what formations and what and personnel groupings they want to use. That will change up. But one thing you will notice that out of the 12 positions, we have three wide receivers. So that says something right there about how we plan to use our wide receivers. It sounds like we're going to use them a little more this year. All righty. Wide receiver, the first set of wide receivers group. Um, Number one, Jarrett Bowie. And I did mention him on my wide receivers podcast a few weeks ago that they liked what they saw in spring camp from him, and they are really high on him. They're really high on him, and I said expect to see him get some playing time. I did not know that he would be considered a starter. Backing up Bowie will be Dayton Howard, and um, I mentioned him, but I didn't say a whole lot about him. But one of the people watching the podcast did bring him up and said, "Don't forget about him. That he may make an impact this year, and he is listed to back up to Bowie. So expect to see him." And I'll drop down to the other wide receivers for you guys. Um, we got Seth Anderson at that wide receiver spot is number one, and Caden Weegan taking the number two spot in that wide receiver. So I do remember Lester saying earlier in a press conference he's really impressed and really likes what Weegan's bringing to the table. Maybe we'll see him do more than just punt returns and end arounds this year. Maybe we'll actually get to see him go out and catch passes a la oh, what's his name? Never mind. He's gone anyway. Okay. The other wide receiver spot is Caleb Brown, listed as one, and Terrell Washington Jr. listed two. You guys remember last year he was a freshman, and so a freshman, yeah, redshirt freshman this year. I just meant to say he was a running back last year. He's supposedly been practicing um, both positions, but it looks like they're going to use him as a wide receiver, maybe like out of the backfield, like they do some running backs or something. But I think they really kind of like what they're getting out of Terrell. So I think this is an offense that's looking at all their offensive weapons and asking themselves, how do we put these puzzles together? How do we get some of these talented people on the field? And I think that's what you have to do. You have to put your best players on the field, whether or not you got to find ways to get them out there and use them. Okay, to no surprise, Luke Lachey is listed as the number one tight end, and Addison Ostrenga listed as the number two tight end. No surprise there. Left tackle is Mason Richmond. He'll be backed up by Jack Dotzler, and I remember, if I told you guys right, when we did the O line predictions and previews, we talked about Jack Doxler having a real shot at being a backup, and there he is. We got Bo Stevens as number one at left guard, and backed up by Cade Piper. Now, there's a young man who's a redshirt freshman. I did mention him in my preview that he might have a chance to do. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I screwed up. I never mentioned Bo Stevens in my preview. I completely forgot about him, and somebody brought it up to me later that I never mentioned him. How I do not know. That's on me. I totally messed that one up. Okay. Um Center, no surprise. Logan Jones backed up by Tyler Ellsbury. Again, that's not a surprise there. I think the surprise for me is not seeing Tyler Ellsbury on anywhere else on the line because he's just too good. He can be a good guard. He needs to be out there and so to see him. So does this mean that he's not going to play? I have no idea. We'll see what fall practice brings, and it starts next Wednesday, according to Kirk. July 31st. It gets underway. Okay. Moving right along. Um, Connor Colby at the right guard with backed up by Nick DeJong. Now again, Nick he saw a lot of starting time. I think. Hi, Jerry. Good to see you there. Good to see you. Now, he saw a lot of starting time and playing time last year, so I'm actually surprised to see. This just goes to the talent level of what's on the O line this year. They are probably looking at a better O line, and these guys are going to be a lot healthier than they were last year and more experienced. So, just to see these guys, um, just some of them not even all being listed as backup, and we know that they'll get in the game. We know Nick will get in the game, and we know that somewhere along the line, Tyler Ellsbury will get in the game in probably one of those other positions. And so we got it right tackle. We got Jennings Dunker. Not surprised there. And Taylor, I want to say Luck. Okay, I want to say that. Just Now he's a redshirt freshman too, so this is another redshirt freshman who's going to be able to break in, and so he will probably see times because, as you guys know, that they like to rotate in. They like to rotate those guys around a little bit and keep moving them around, depending on what packages they're up against and who needs a blow for a minute. And so those guys will move around a little bit, and they'll all get in the game one way or the other. And so we already mentioned the wide receiver there was Seth Anderson and Cade Weegan. QB, again, this is not a surprise. Cade McNamara listed as number one. I think what the surprise is Marco Lainez at number two and Brendan Sullivan at number three. However, I don't expect it to stay that way. After camp gets over, I expect Brandon Sullivan will be the number two. I hate to say that because I do really like Marco. Marco's a redshirt freshman. Guys, I thought he'd been at the campus longer than that. So that means last year was his first year, Marco. I had no idea. It's an old mind, guys. It's an old mind. That's what happens when you think. So they might be looking at Brendan Sullivan being back up this year and starting next year, and by that time, Marco should be able to claim the spot if he hangs around, which I doubt he will. But if he hangs around his junior and senior year, Okay, running backs. LaShawn Williams is listed as number one, followed by Caleb Johnson and Kamari Moulton. I think the surprise here is not so much the order because I think Caleb Johnson will be the top running back before the end of the season. I don't know what happened with Caleb last year. He's a very good running back, and I'm not sure. And so anyway, let's look at that. I think the huge surprise here is seeing Kamari Moulton at number three. He's also a redshirt freshman. It looks like they're going to give him more time than they're going to give Jazz Patterson. Jazz Patterson has had two years in that position, and he's showed flashes of what he can do at the running back position. But apparently, Kamari has passed him up, and I do remember the coaches talking about in spring practice how much Moulton has improved and how much they like him. So that's good. At fullback, we got Hayden Large, followed by Eli Miller. This is not a surprise. This is what we expected, right there. And we talked about the final wide receiver spot, Kalen Brown and Terrell Washington Jr. That I think that using Terrell as a wide receiver, I think that is just smart thinking on their part because he's such a talented person and what he can do to get him on the field is bright. And by the way, in case you haven't heard, it's official. Even though this is not a surprise, it's official. Kirk announced today that Caleb Brown will get a 1-game suspension. He talked about today how he talked to Caleb and said, you can't undo the past. What happened in the past, you can move forward, and just move forward and just have a great August is what he told him. And he says it won't be brought up again unless, of course, there's a reason to. And Kirk said today that he didn't expect it needed to be come back up, so they're putting it behind them and they're going to move on. Okay. Defense again. 12 positions are listed. The starting 11 will depend on various formations and personnel groups. Okay. So here we go. Left end, Dante Craig. Okay, I can go with that one. He's a senior. Max Llewellyn, he's a junior. And they got number 3 here listed. I think they got 3 listed, all these guys. I think they're concerned. If you read between the lines today with Kirk Ferentz, I think they're a little concerned about the defensive line and some of the other defense, that they don't have a lot of great backups. They didn't come out and use that word, but they kind of hinted at it. But anyway, number 3 is Kenneth Merriweather. And so, all right, left tackle, Aaron Graves, and Jeff Bowie and Will Hubert. Hubert's a sophomore. Bowie's going to be a junior. I think. I think, in all honesty, I do believe. I don't know. See, these are unknown names to us. These are guys who haven't got any playing time, and I look at the sheet and you can tell because there's no stars behind their name. Okay, you got Yaya Black back. The key is keeping this guy healthy. He has spent most of his career unhealthy, and I can't believe he's a senior already. Man, it just seemed like yesterday he arrived on campus. Jeremiah Pittman, who's a junior, he got a little playing time last year. Luke Gaffney, I don't think he got any playing time last year. He's a sophomore. Those are the right tackles. Okay. Right end is Ethan Herkett. Now, we've heard of him. He's gotten some playing time. He is a senior. I think he's one of those stories with, I think, I did not see that, Jerry. I'm going to put that comment up. I did not see that. I'll just, I did watch a little bit of Franklin's thing today, but not very much of it. So he shouted out to Kirk Ferentz, huh? What, on his longevity, or was he making fun of it? Because I know one coach said that he considered Kirk a new coach in this Big Ten too, because he'd be going up against teams that he hadn't faced before, and it'd be all new to him too. And plus, he's having a new offense. So he said, "Yeah, despite Kirk's 26 years, he's newbie too." I know. It's funny because I always had this idea that Kirk and James Franklin didn't get along very well. But hey, what can you say? All right. While I'm at it here, let me put this one up. All right, Jared, are you back in the States? I know that you had a great summer because I've been following it on Facebook. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. That was Matt Rule that said that about I think about Kirk. Okay. Which Big Ten has the most difficult schedule? Which has the weakest? Is there a schedule strength? I haven't seen the schedule strength yet. I went through this, Jared, in a couple of podcasts ago. I forget who I decided had the strongest schedule. So yeah, um, Iowa's strength of schedule. You know, that's I got to get back to you on that one, Jared. I got to get back to you on that one because I'm going to be honest. I did that podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I'd have to go back and look at my notes, and I honestly don't remember. I think I consider Iowa's schedule not too difficult. Kind of right in the middle because honestly, Washington could be better than we think they are. Nebraska should be better than they have been. As a matter of fact, I got Nebraska with as 8 to 9 wins this year. And Wisconsin should be starting to get back slowly. They went out and got like 15 or 16 transfers, so hopefully they're doing that. They're getting in the guys that can run that offense, is what I'm guessing. So I think the team that benefited most from the schedule this year is going to be Nebraska. I think they've got the easiest schedule, in my opinion, which is why they're going to win 8 to 9 games. Okay, let's get back to the depth chart. And I'm glad to bring your comments on here. Okay, I'm all in on KF and his crew of Barnett and Bud Budmeyer turning the ship and getting us into the playoffs. Throw in the Troy blue chip OC Troy wishes they had, and this team will be elite. Um, Big Hawkeye Kelvin, I can't tell if you're being serious or if you're being sarcastic. I don't really know. It almost comes off as sarcastic, but hats off to you if you're being genuine. Um, yeah, Oregon's a pretty tough team. They're going to be 1 or 2 in the Big Ten this year. Matter of fact, Ohio State and Oregon play each other, but they probably will play each other for the title game too. Okay, so where are we at? Okay. Cash position: Sebastian Castro and John Nestor. Um, this should be really cool. They're really counting on. I really think they're counting on really Nestor to do big time, and great to have Castro back. I think he was a little overlooked in the Big Ten awards last year. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Um. No, Big Calvin. I don't think you have to do that. I'm sorry if you're being genuine. I really am. If you are really being genuine, I'm sorry. It just sounded like it was coming off a little. What do I want to call it? Um, little sarcastic, but that's fine. That's fine. No harm here. We're all good. We're all good. Okay. Let's finish doing this. Okay. All right. Castro's going to surprise a lot of offense because this season. All right. So we got where did I leave off? Okay, Leo, Kyler Fisher, and Jackson Rexroth. Kyler Fisher is a grad, and Jackson is a junior. Middle linebacker Jay Higgins and Jaden Harewell. Um, the other linebacker position is Nick Jackson and Carson Scherer. So Higgins and Jackson, they really Higgins. If you heard Higgins talk today at the media days, he talked about oh how um oh how Nick and Higgins couldn't do their job without the line in front of them doing their job, and it's their job to make sure that people like oh Xavier Wampa and Quinn Schulte are freed up to do their job, and so basically they got each other's back and they work together. And I don't know. Higgins today talked about how last year when Wampa had one hand, and that's late in the season, and how the signals had to change up, and Higgins was getting confused and frustrated. um, with the signal calls. He said they got really close when they started fairing to figure out what calls that Paul was trying to call back there. And so that's funny because I was really impressed with Higgins. He's got a career in media, and I guess he won the local media award last year for being the most available and the most respectful that they could be. The interviewee or something. Yeah. Okay. So then we get down to okay. Next position, John Nestor and T.J. Hall. T.J. Hall, I would have thought would have won himself a starting spot by now, but he's still back up as a junior and passed up by John Nestor on the depth chart as a sophomore. Okay. Xavier Wampa and Cohen Echterninger are listed 1 and 2. Kirk said today that Echteringer has still he had surgery in the offseason. He's still not cleared to go and doesn't know the timetable when he will be cleared to go. So I'm honestly surprised that he's listed on the 2 deeps. Okay, so that's his strong safety. And I'm sorry, Nestor and TJ Hall were left corner. I want to apologize for messing that up. And free safety is Quinn Schulte, no surprise, and Zach Lutmer. Now he was another redshirt freshman. There's a lot of redshirt freshmen in this lineup, guys. And I'm really thinking it's really cool that that the redshirt freshmen are going to get in. They're going to get some experience. But like I said, there may be some drop off when those guys and things like that. And then of course you got your right corner, Jamari Harris and Deshaun Lee. Deshaun Lee, yeah, if it weren't, he'd be starting this year if it weren't for Jamari being a grad and coming back for his 6th year. And so that being said, okay, I got the special teams. Then we'll move on. We got the moving on up to the east side. Okay, place kicker will be Drew Stevens this year, backed up by Trip Woody. Was Trip the one that took the winning field goal in the Nebraska game last year? Okay, all right. Punter, Rise Dakin, backed up by Ty Nissen. Rise Dakin, as you guys know, is an Australian. I've heard good things that he can boom them too. But he's a little bit younger, a little more immature, so they're thinking they may not get the kind of results that they want, like they got from Tyler last year. Okay, long snapper is Luke Elkin. He's done it before, so they're really happy that he's back. Kirk mentioned him, that having him back is a good thing. And Ike Speed backed up. Okay, the initial 2 deeps that come out showed punt returner as Weegan. But that's the punt returner is no longer showing up on anything I went looking for, and so it must have been taken off. And so, sorry about that. Okay, alrighty. Let's go through some of your questions. Alrighty. Okay, Cube Quaid seems like he's positive about the season. I think he needs to be. He needs to be because he's gonna. He's got to mentally be ready with the injury and everything. He's even said this himself that he has to get past the mental part. The physical part he's comfortable doing. The mental part is good. What's going to hurt him? He has to get past that, and he says he thinks he has. Okay. Does KF have any say so in the defense? With this brilliant mind, you'd have to think Phil would seek out his opinions. The honest truth is he does not. He keeps hands off, and from what I'm told, from the interviews people asked if he ever comes by the defense and does anything, and they said no, absolutely not. He spends all of his time with the O line, so he is not having a say so in the defense. And I'm afraid with Phil Parker, if he did, Phil Parker would probably walk off the job. Um, okay. Iowa recruited the number one kicker or punter in the country. Yes, they did. They got him, and he's committed. I forget his name, and I believe he's on scholarship, and he's a 5 star. Very rarely do you bring in a kicker on scholarship, and very rarely do you find one rated as a 5. And this is going to be good. I hope he's somebody that can kick 60, 70-yard field goals because they might need him to do that. Okay. Alrighty. And so anyway, let's talk about some of the other things that Kirk Ferentz talked about today. Okay. Um, this is kind of funny. This is what kind of bothered me. Okay. In one spot, he talks about um pretty much that Cade is the guy. He's the man that's gonna run the offense. Okay. Be the quarterback. But then he says later on, when somebody asks him a question, says Cade's ready to go, but says all positions are fluid. No one is guaranteed a spot. Now that kind of bothered me, okay? Because that's kind of saying, if you want to say something like this, that yeah, Cade's our number one quarterback, but it's his job to lose. The other two can actually, push him. That's fine. I can get with that. But to say he's number one and then turn around and say that all positions are fluid, that's not saying anything else in my book. Okay. I hope Cade makes KF's decision to start him the best decision ever. KF has taken the heat for the QBs, but Brian Ferentz. Okay, we'll get this out of my way. But Brian Ferentz. Stop it. Okay, okay, guys. I'm sorry. I keep getting pop-ups in front of this stuff. But KF has taken the heat for the QBs, but BF couldn't develop them, and I have to think Hill was not given enough time to develop. Um, wow, there's a lot to take in on that comment. So yeah, I'm yes, Brian didn't develop the quarterbacks, but you remember who the quarterback coach was before him? It was Ken O'Keefe, and you remember which quarterback was under Ken O'Keefe when he was there? Nate Stanley. And do you remember what Nate Stanley said when he was being after he got drafted by the Vikings and they were looking at his mechanics? He said no one bothered to work on the mechanics at Iowa. Nobody works on the mechanics. They were more worried about the ball. Where's it going? Who's it going to? How fast do we get it out? And and Nate kind of put a little damage there to it. Okay. Llama says, Big Kelvin, are you really hyping up K up a little bit too much? Aren't you? Um, okay. Apparently he likes KF. Okay. All right. T Hink. I've seen you guys. I've seen you around. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier when I was doing the two deeps. He's been suspended for one game, so that's official. All right. And so he made an excuse, almost like an excuse for the poor offense. He said, first of all, the offense was only bad for 2 years, and he finally admits it. And he almost seemed giddy about Lester being there and Brian being gone, you know. But I mean, he didn't come out and say, "I'm glad Brian's gone," But he just said changes had to be made. Things had to be evaluated. Changes had to be made. It's almost like he's glad that Getz did her job for him, so he didn't have to do it. Yeah. Okay. All right. What do you think about having 3 starting wide receivers? I think that's a tells time. That is a sign of uh that's a sign that the offense is evolving and probably plans on using wide receivers more and getting them more involved in the game. Um, hmm, okay. Jerry, you said no, but I'm not sure what the no was for. If you could refresh my memory, what you're saying no to. Um, yeah, okay. I have to think that they took Nate's comment out of context. Nate was a proven winner with an outstanding Big Ten record. Just in my opinion, though, KF and O'Keefe should have won a national championship. Um, Nate Stanley's Big Ten record was like 15-13 or something in 3 years. So, granted, they won games under him. Um, they went 8 wins of his first year, 9 wins his second year, and 10 wins his third year. So they did win games. Okay. T. Hink says, is that a lesser think the three wide receivers? I gotta believe it is, because have we ever seen three wide receivers listed on a starting? Yeah. Um, Jared says he's looking forward to the Paris Olympics. You guys can put in the comments. I know this is a Hawkeye thing, but if you want to put down what sport are you looking most forward to watching in the Olympics? For me, it's swimming and gymnastics. It's always has been. Okay. Oh, I skipped Herkins back up. Thank you, Calvin. I'll go back and get that. I'm sorry. Um. Okay, Brian Allen, who I did mention as a possible backup this year, and Caden Crawford. I think I brought him up on my podcast too. Okay. The okay. All right. Llama's got it. That 15-11 was his record with no wins against Nebraska. Did we lose to Nebraska 3 years in a row? You meant Wisconsin. You meant Wisconsin, Llama. You not Nebraska, because we were beating Nebraska then. Llama says that T. Hink tells the truth. Oh, we missed one here. Okay, I always look back at the Penn State game where he missed a throw by 10 feet that would have went on to win. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. Go Spencer Lee in wrestling. Yeah. Yeah. Don't we have a girl wrestler over there in the Olympics too? Alrighty. Rather watch the Winter Olympics. Jerry says. Winning QBs make plays. My bad, because he didn't have to hard to get that 2-point conversion against Whiskey. Okay. All right. Let's go on to more things that Kirk talked about. He did kind of make excuses for the poor offense last year. Kind of hinted to injuries and stuff, and so, but it's glad because he didn't. I'll put that up because I need to. So that by the way, in case you guys hadn't heard, former wide receiver coach at Iowa, Kelton Copeland, is now an analyst at Kansas. Yeah, we already talked about the Kalen Brown situation. Got some more notes here. Alrighty, we did that one. That one's done. Okay, we're going over here. Okay, so he was mentioning today that the players have are learning the offense pretty quickly. He says a lot quicker than he's making it because he's trying to do it from memory. Kelvin throws in Brad Heinrich says Edgerton will start at some point this season when healthy in Wampa spot or Jamari Harris's spot. Wow, that's saying a lot, Calvin. Is he that good? Is he really that good that he could take Wampa out of his spot? That is amazing. If he's that good, I welcome it because I want the best players on the field, regardless of their name and their reputation. Okay. High draft pick. Who's a high draft pick? Okay. Righty. Were there excuses or just facts? Or three going down were the season-ending offensive talent? If there were more people donating to the swarm, we'd have better backups. Just my opinion again, though. You're not wrong, big Hawkeye. You're not wrong, honestly. I agree with you. This is my second year donating to the swarm, and I'm really reconsidering whether to do it next year. But mine runs out in May, so I got till May to decide. But um, I just wanna think that we shouldn't have to, as fans, um, pay to get these players to come to Iowa. There should be coming out of that fun that they make, all that TV money. You can't tell me that they're just blowing through those millions of dollars that they're getting. Where's that money going? That's what I'd like to know. Okay. It says, have you been following other former Hawkeyes like Petrus? Um, I know that he's going to be the starting quarterback for Utah State this year, unless something happens in fall camp. And I will be following him in his games. I know he's got one against USC early in the season, and yeah, I'll be interested in what he's going to do because I do think that he wasn't a great quarterback for us, but I don't know if that's to blame the O line or injuries or what we want to do. Um, you know, but okay, alrighty. T Hink, that's what I'm saying. The school should pay for it. They should be paying for it. I do know they got this fun thing coming up, or this revenue sharing coming up, but and they haven't quite figured out how they're going to do it. But according to Getz, each individual school is going to be able to decide for themselves, and so they could actually donate a certain amount to strictly football, or they could divide it equally. And because of Title IX, there might be they might have to give more to the women because the women percentage wise would be higher. And so, but she says they're still working through all those. I forgot the word she used it, but they're working through all those possibilities to see what would be in Iowa's best interest. And she did assure us that she wants Iowa to win and be the best possible they are, and they would go full board. They're on board fully. So okay, I bet Sullivan and Gill will be phenomenal when given a chance. We waited out the portal and got the best. Okay. Um, T. They're getting trillions of dollars in TV revenue. They are. This is why I say that they should be able to use that money, take more than whatever they're talking about, and use that money. Okay. Just remember, Iowa's the 85 Scullies, and that's it. Just like everybody else. There is talk, and I was going to bring this up, that they talked about it today. That there's a chance that they want to cap. This wouldn't do Iowa any good, and I would suggest reading Chad Lysicle's article on it. That it wouldn't do Iowa any good because they're talking about capping out the rosters at 105 and doing away with walk-ons. You guys know. I mean, you guys are true Hawkeye fans. You guys know that Iowa lives and breathes through the walk-on program. They need those walk-ons. They need those walk-ons, and those walk-ons have come through for us time and time again. Ask all the walk-ons who were developed and went into the NFL. You guys keep these kings coming. I might not get through the show. And so T Hink says it's Kelvin questions if it's trillions. T Hink says it's either billions or trillion. Jared wishes all the best for all the players. Yes. Petrus seems like a great team player. Petrus, by all accounts, is a good guy. He's a very good guy. And so let that be said. Sometimes good guys just can't get the job done, though. In all honesty. Okay. Iowa will get about 150 million in the revenue sharing. Okay. Or is that just from the TV thing for this year? Okay. If we go to the okay, wait a minute. Here we go. Okay. If we go to the playoffs with Beth, give KF a lifetime contract extension. No, no, no. No lifetime extension. The guy's going to be well into his 70s by the time the current contract runs out. Um, I I appreciate what I've said this before. What Kirk Ferentz has done for the program and where he's got it, and he's kept it consistently. But I want to. I'm among those guys, and I'm only a year younger than Kirk. I'm one of those guys that wants to see this program achieve, blue blood status. I want to see us, constantly be in the hunt for a playoff every year and a national champion with us in the talk that Iowa has a real chance to be a national champion. I want us to be Ohio State. I want us to be Alabama. I want us to be what Clemson was. I think Clemson's fallen off a little bit. I want to be those schools. I want to be those schools before I die. I want to see our schools do that. I want to see us win more than just 8, 10 games a year and say that was a great season. I mean, it is a good season by all accounts. There are a lot of teams out there that would love to have the seasons that Iowa has, but I want more. I want more as a Hawkeye fan. I want to see more. Okay. Yeah, did I not cover that one? Here we go. Yeah, it's the playoff this year or it's a bust in my opinion. And honestly, T-Hink, I'm right there with you. When somebody asked me, I did say that I felt the playoffs is where this team should be this year. And they've got the schedule to do it. They just need to get through injuries. They just need to make sure that the injury bug doesn't rise up and bite them. Okay. Petrus was the man. Just needed better wide receivers. Copeland needed to be canned for his lack of production. Okay. Jared. Oh. Which Big Ten's coaches are on the hot seat? Honestly, I don't think any. I don't think any. All the returning coaches have their programs trending in the right direction, and the new coaches are definitely not on the hot seat because they deserve more time to turn their programs around. So Rutgers and Maryland are trending in the right direction. So those two aren't on the hot seat. Well, maybe Illinois. Maybe Illinois with BB. They had the one winning season under him, and they haven't done anything since then. But they got like 20. I think it was 21 or 16 transfer portal guys. No, they didn't get that many. What they didn't get a lot, but what they did get were real quality guys that could help the program. I'm glad we don't have to face them this year. Okay. Who we got? Okay. Oh, Big Calvin, that has to be a joke of all the things you're saying. All right. With KF, we can. We just need more swarm donations and great coaching hires like Barnett, Budmeyer, and Parker. Well, okay. Big Calvin, what do you think of Budmeyer being our wide receiver coach? What's your personal opinion? Okay. Of you guys were coaching, we'd be in the playoffs every year, laughing my ass off. God, I don't know. Llama, I never joke about Iowa football, contrary to what Dean thinks. Okay. Lima is hot in the pants. Jerry. Okay, I gotta get some water here real quick. Hang on. You guys have made this a fun show tonight. I really appreciate you guys' input. Although there are so many, it says there's only 2 of you online. but there's like 5 or 6 of you that have been commenting all night. So maybe you guys popping in and out and coming back. I don't know. Is Corey on or something? Is everybody running back and forth the Corey show or something? Um. So anyway, he said this about Lester today. Kirk did. He just said that when Iowa plays well up front and gets good quarterback play, they usually have a chance to have a good offense. Um. So Day is on the hottest seat. Um. You guys honestly think that Ryan Day's on the hot seat because he's not beating Michigan? Because he'll beat Michigan this year. Um. Because I mean, we saw what happened in Nebraska when they fired a coach that could get them 9 to 10 wins a season when they wanted to go to the next level. And so, they're getting to the playoffs annually, and not every year, but they're getting there and on a consistent basis. So I I find it hard to believe that he would be on the hot seat unless was Ohio State is really that slow. I would say I would tell the AD at Ohio State, look at Nebraska the last several years after they fired the last time they had a winning season, they fired that coach for winning 9 games. USC the second hottest. Well, he's only going into a second year. I would give him more than just that, more than 1 year. I do understand that with one of the best quarterbacks in the country last year, they weren't able to get the kind of wins he needed. Okay. If he loses to Michigan again, he's gone. That could be, guys. That could be. I mean, Ohio State might take it that seriously. Okay. Um, for what Bud has proven in his recruiting of Hill and the CSU. Oh, I think he will do the same thing for the wide receivers, bringing in winners. Lester better be careful in 2 years because Bud might be taking his job. Okay. Ohio State expectations should be considerably high, which they are. They are considerably high. Um, third year. Third year. Okay. All right. I didn't realize he was going into his third year. I thought it was his second. Okay. Franklin's seat is on fire if he can't make playoffs this year. Honestly, from what I heard, he's going to fire himself if they don't make the playoffs. But that's just what I've heard. I don't know how true that is. Okay. Let's get back to some of this other stuff, and then when you guys got some more questions, I'll throw them up again. Okay. Alrighty. He talked about anyway, you guys heard me talk about the um if Iowa plays well up front and gets good QB play, they usually have a pretty decent offense. Okay. He just talked about Lester, how he likes him around. He's high energy, and that high energy is feeding off the players. The players gravitate toward him. Um, and right now, he's talking about when he talked with on the side, he talked about there's no structure in college football. He feels like it's a free for all, and it is. Right now, it is a free for all. Okay. 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 Calvin Fisher says OSU spent more in NIL on QB room than Iowa on everything. Okay. Franklin equals hyperbole. Okay. All right. Guys are making it fun. I like this when we can just keep going like this and don't feel like it's a 15-minute show. Okay. Um, I did know. I don't know if anybody else caught this, but when Kirk was talking about which was supposed to be the open portal part during the winter, he called it free agency, and so and when you think about that, that's exactly what it is. Sometimes Kirk is kind of smart that way, where he's trying to get his point across. He called it free agency. He feels good about where they're at. He says after January, he's not so sure because he said that he feels good about where they're at until January. After that, he's not sure where they're at. Um, is that a hint that he's thinking about retiring after this season? I don't know. Or is it that just about talking about where the money is, where the money's coming from, and things like that on the NIL? Okay. He talked about the helmet to helmet communications when they brought that up. He said said that college is finally catching up to high school. I didn't know high schools had earpieces or microphones and earpieces in their helmets. And they said helmet to helmet. Does that mean that they can communicate like with each other on the field, or is this just the coaches communicating with the QB only? I know this is something new this year, and so okay. We do more with less, and that's the Iowa way. We get great kids, nice coaches, and that's the recipe for winning. Hence why we're winning all the time. Yeah. Yeah. And Jerry, yeah, and the iPads. Yeah, I forgot about the iPads being on the side too. I always thought they had them anyway. I did not realize that they didn't have them on the sidelines. In this day and age, who thought that you couldn't have them before? Yeah. Um, Jared, have there been any new rule changes to college? There have, but I don't remember what they are. We'll have to look all those up, and as we get closer to the beginning of the season, and we do some preview shows, like the preview show for Illinois State and stuff. We can do that. Yeah, 2 minute warning is something new. Yes, yes. Um, they didn't actually do a 2 minute warning last year, right? But didn't they keep the clock running until the last 2 minutes last year? And so that was kind of like a 2 minute warning. Okay. We already talked about Ettinger not being cleared to play yet. So I don't know when he talked about he didn't know when he was going to be cleared to play or practice again. And then he said he still has to get up on the field and learn everything and get his confidence back. Um, he said that Brandon and Markle are still in the mix. They asked about the pink visitors room, and he said that they had one of the nicest, if not the nicest, visitors room in college football. He talked about how um, some of the visiting rooms that they go to in the Big Ten are pretty bad shape. He said sometimes you could find one shower stall that's running at full blast. Um, and he said the pipes leak, and he said they've been in some pretty nasty. Um, Says Dean, do you think if Hill wasn't run out of town, would he have given Kate a real competition? No, absolutely not. I'm sorry, Big Hawkeye, but Hill wasn't a very good quarterback. He might be the worst I've seen ever at Iowa. And I'm sorry that's saying a lot because we've had some quarterbacks that have not been so good at Iowa. Um, Jared says 2 minute warning seems like a good idea. I think so. I think so. But it also helps the team. Um, it also helps the team that's behind stop and get their bearings together. They're not rushing back out on the field and everything. And have you seen in the NFL, usually with a 2 minute warning, the team that's driving for the winning goal is for some reason usually gets the winning touchdown or the winning field goal because something about that 2 minute warning and the time that they get to reset everything. Okay. Anyway, he talked about that, and he talked about he really likes what John Nestor's bringing to the table this year, and I think we've seen that by the way he's treated in the two deeps. Hmm. Yeah, I like Jerry. I think everybody but Big Hawkeye agree that Hill was not a very good quarterback. Says I think Lester would have worked with him. He could have been elite. We'll never know though. We'll find out. I mean, you find out if he gets a job at was that Utah Tech. If he gets a starting job there or something, we'll find out how good he can be. Okay. All right. Jared says teams would need to work on their clock management and timeouts with a 2 minute warning. Yes, they would. Iowa's not been very good at time management on the clock, and I think we all know that. I think we all know that. Alrighty. So, anyhow, anyway, he said that he's feeling good about the wide receiver room. I'm not really. I don't see a lot of there in there. And then let's just talk about this real quick. There's not a lot. I didn't get a lot out of the guys' interviews today, but Um, but but Higgins offered to buy the defensive line stakes if they can keep guys off of him, and so he said he goes. Then he kind of laughed and said, "But they eat a lot," and so that then he complimented Schulte, who shows up and works hard every day, and he always votes him captain because now that he's on the leadership team, he votes him as a captain all the time. Um, Higgins felt like it's fun to play meaningful Big Ten games. Wants to. Okay, I don't know what I wrote my notes. I guess. Um, Talked about how X comes in and works hard every day, and we already talked about the change call freaking Higgins out with the one handed call. Luke Lachey was called the most complete tight end ever at Iowa. Not only did a magazine say this, The Athletic, I believe, said it, but Kirk Ferentz said it today that he can do it all. He is um, one of the most complete um, tight ends, and and more of a true tight end. He can block. He can catch, and I don't remember what else he said, but he said he's the most true tight end they've had at Iowa for a while. And by the way, Luke Lachey loves Legos, and we might get to see some of that on August. What did he say? August 16th is when BTN will be in Iowa City, and the lady asked him to bring his Legos, so he said he'd think about that. And then we talked about Higgins, how he won an award this year. How he won an award last year, I guess. From the local media, and then we already talked about the capping of the rosters, and how the losing the walk-on program at Iowa would devastate it. Schulte is just the latest success story with a safety. Remember Sean Constantine, Brent Greenwood, Jake Travas, all those guys were safeties, and they were all walk-ons. All walk-ons. Okay. KF seems very optimistic about the season. Area's concern is defense. He came right out and said that he's concerned about the defense. That there's a lot of guys who haven't played yet, and he'll just have to see how things go. But I don't think he's worried much about the starters as he is about the backups. Is what I took about it. They talked about the guy who took Doyle's place, Raymond Bray Haiti. I can't even say his name anymore. That he's a first class person. So I don't know much about that. He talked about Brian being at Maryland, what a great opportunity it was for him. And he said, as a dad, he just wants to see his kids be around good people and do well. And so I just kind of paraphrased that, but that's kind of where he was at with that. So let's see go through some more of you guys' opinion tonight. Imagine our QB room if Petrus and Hill had stayed. Elite status, in my opinion. Okay, Kirk says Budmeyer coached wide receivers at Colorado State. I wasn't aware of that. But Colorado State had a really awful season, and the reason why we ended up with Budmeyer is because all the coaches got fired at Colorado State after 1 year. Okay. Is that true, Calvin? If so, our wide receiving room would be great next year. High praise indeed. Okay. Alrighty. Jared says, "Oh, excuse me if you're repeating yourself, but how's the offensive line?" Um, He said that the offensive line, he's excited about it. They're very experienced. They're very old. They've got guys from 4 years to 6 years on that line, and so they're expecting them to be really good this year. I don't know how good, but we need them to show up and be that O line that we know that they should be. Because without it, the running game will suck, and then the passing game will suck even worse. You know, um, Defense will need to pick it up this year and keep our offensive weapons out on the field longer. We definitely need to keep the offense on the field this year. I think part of the problem at the end of the season is our defense just spent way too much time on the field last year. It's hard to be elite when you're out there sucking wind and sucking gas. the whole time you're on the field because you can't get off the field for 12 or 13 minutes at a time. And then you go back in, try to get a blow, and your offense stays on the field 2 minutes. You know, is Maryland a good fit for Brian? I have no idea. I think it's just what the job that Brian could have. Yeah, it was rumored during the offseason that Brian had visited Nebraska about a job, and apparently that has been verified that that really happened. They just didn't have anything for Brian, and apparently Matt Rule likes Kirk Ferentz and Brian. He has a respect for them. So, alrighty, how will ISU be this coming season, Jared? They're supposed to be a pretty good team. They're among the talk. One of the magazines has them finishing 6th in their conference, but they're also talk about they could challenge for the Big 12 title, and that would of course put them in the playoff talk. Okay, ISU is a real good rivalry game. Anyone can win, obviously. I believe after the 2027 season or the 2026 season, I don't remember which, but they're no longer on our schedule. That doesn't mean that they won't show up later. I think they're waiting to see what the Big Ten does because Big Ten is rumored to go into 10 games. And so that probably will happen after the latest TV contract is over. Okay, nobody would help Hill out. He was trying, but no wide receivers could get open. Calvin, I will say one thing about this. There's no doubt in my mind that Hill was doing everything he was capable of doing to try to win. He didn't go out there and try to lose. He didn't go out there and fumble on purpose. He didn't throw interceptions on purpose. None of that. None of that, and it seemed like he was a pretty good guy, but good guys don't always have the talent. 3/4 of Hill's turnovers were a lack of wide receivers and players wanting to win. You mean a lack of players wanting to win? Okay, that's probably what you meant, right? A lack of players wanting to win. God, I would hate to think that. I would think that they would want to win. Who wants to go in against the Big Ten championship game and get blown out? Who wants to go into the bowl game against Tennessee and get blown out? I don't agree with that part that they didn't want to win. I really disagree with that. Okay. The problem, I think, was a lot had to do with Hill tried to hold the ball too long. Okay. You can only expect your line to only do a few seconds of holding, which is why you need to get the ball out right away. You can't waste your time. You need to make your reads quickly and get the ball to where it's going. Hill didn't do that. Hill waited all day, which is why he constantly got sacked, which is how fumbles happen because Hill held the ball down low enough that these guys would come in and sack him and strip the ball out of his hands. So and I'm not sure why you're defending Hill. I really don't know why. I mean, it seemed like he should have been a pretty decent quarterback. They said he was 4-star coming out of high school, but he was fourth team on the Wisconsin team and never. I don't think he ever threw a pass for Wisconsin. Yeah. With that, I think we knew Calvin. Kirk said Cade has never practiced healthy at Iowa, and he didn't play a game healthy at Iowa. We already know that. Until now. But yeah, they're saying he's completely healthy and that that once we see him is because nobody's ever seen him in a Hawkeye uniform play well. Those 3 losses to top 25 was because we lost 2 of our big weapons on offense. Cade was still our quarterback in the Penn State game. Was Lachey already gone by that time? Had Lachey gone out? Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. What are our expectations? 10 to 11 wins. That's my expectations. And I'm not even expecting them to come out with a offense that's, I just want them to get over 100th. If they can get over 100th and just have average offense, they should be able to win. If they had on that drive to 25, if they had actually last year or 325, if they had actually averaged 25 a game, we would have won one more game against Minnesota. Okay, yes, technically we won that game. I know what you guys are saying, but we still lost it. It still goes down as a loss. But if we had had 25 points in that game, it wouldn't even have come down to a touchdown being taken off the board. Okay. Okay, Iowa with a 9+ win season. I'm going 10+, Jared. Yeah, I'm big Hawkeye. Yeah, until they took him out. Yes, he did not finish the Penn State game, but there was no reason for him to. We were getting blown out, and they didn't want to risk injury. But yes, it was the next game that he got injured and got out for the rest of the season. Okay. Would a 9-3 Iowa team get to the playoffs just of having a legend like Kirk? No. I don't think a 10-2 Iowa team would get them in the playoffs. You got to remember there are other teams to consider, especially in the Big Ten. When you look at Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, all those teams are predicted to finish ahead of Iowa. And so I don't know. If you guys saw my Big Ten preview show, I actually have Iowa tied for first with Ohio State and Oregon. But that's another story. You guys can find that on the YouTube. Just go find that one. It's clearly mentioned Big Ten preview. Were there okay? Were there any comments about it wasn't a fair catch to? No, nobody brought that up. And I don't think Kirk would even touch it because that's last season. It's over and done with. If you want to coach your team, you don't want to bring up the past. You want to leave the past in the past and move forward. And Kirk had the right idea when he was talking with Caleb Brown about, that what's done's done. You can't undo it. Like a loss is a loss. You can't undo it. What you do is you learn from it and you move forward. And so, yeah, I would expect him not to answer that question if anybody had the guts to do that. So, okay. Guys, this has been a fun show. You guys want to make more statements and more comments? I'll hang around for a few more minutes. If not, then I'm going to end the show. So I'm going to do something here real quick. Switch over to the banner. There we go. This is what I want people to see when they see it on Facebook. No, that's not what I wanted to see. Where's the banner I was using earlier? Oh, maybe there must be another one. Yeah, there we go. This is what I want. All right, guys, before you leave, I just want you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this. If you guys liked it and had any fun with it, do it. Okay, I'm getting out of here, and it was a great show. I appreciate every one of you for being a part of the show. Go Hawks.